Sports, and you guys please get the video for me of the standing ovation that Diana Taurasi got. Meadowlark Media has been following her around all season, doing a documentary on her, and we're going to tell that story because the roots of that kind of greatness are worth exploring. You've heard me say, Amin, recently that the cruelty in criticism of athletes make it, I believe, that today's athletes who have really arrived at a mastery of sports sometimes aren't celebrated as they should be because we spend so much time blaming and criticizing and telling people how it is that they can be better at being athletes. But beyond being a pioneer, which Diana Taurasi obviously is for 20 years, the idea that she would score 21 points in Phoenix's first game of the playoffs and then would leave the court fouling out last night and possibly ending her career. We don't know for sure because she didn't talk to the media. I would imagine because to be great for that long, you have to have a special kind of seething in your soul that makes you not want to talk to anybody and do emotional farewells when you've just had your season extinguished. That's 3 straight seasons that Phoenix has finished under 500. This isn't the way that she wants to end her career, I mean, but her playing in her 40s after 20 years suggests a maniacal craftsmanship and dedication to what it is that she's doing to fight off the young people in that sport, to fight off everything after 20 years that tries to take her greatness on a sport that she's built that is now, I got to imagine, better than it's ever been. I mean, in terms of what the competition is, because now you have the dollars, you have the path that she built that has all the lights so that others can follow. You're from the area. What does this mean to Phoenix? What kind of star connection does she have to the region?
She's on the Mount Rushmore along with Larry Fitzgerald, Steve Nash, Charles Barkley. She's one of those names, an icon. And Dan, the thing that everyone has to remember is that she's from the era where the idea that, like, I just play in the WNBA and then the WNBA offseason is my time to explore other interests. She didn't have that luxury. She was playing year-round basketball every single season.
Building the league.
Building the league, building the sport, all over the world, in Russia and Turkey, all places like that, where she was incredibly successful. We're never going, because we're not as educated and knowledgeable about the EuroLeague as we are what happens here. But the reality is that's where she made most of her money during the bulk of her career. And she was incredibly successful there. A 6-time EuroLeague champion, a 7-time champ in Russia, a 3-time Russian Player of the Year. And this is when Russia had the best league, domestic league in the world. Turkey, everywhere. She won at college, obviously at UConn, was incredibly successful there. She laid the groundwork for what it is to be the modern WNBA superstar, and she did it globally. And when you talk about that seething, it's funny, we were talking earlier, and Jeremy was like, well, it's kind of crazy. This is how it all ends. And I said, look, I get it. We all expect this to be her last year. Maybe she expects this to be her last year. But don't be surprised if come March or April next year, she's like, you know what? I got another one in me.
Tom Brady vibes.
Very strong Tom Brady vibes, exactly. I could see her retiring and then coming back. She averaged 15 points a game. Like, she's still a productive WNBA player. She's not a superstar anymore, but she's still productive. And Dan, I think one of the biggest things I could say, and I know that people are going to take this the wrong way.
Oh, no. I hate when he's got bad judgment here, and I hate when he prefaces stuff with that.
I don't have the best judgment in the world. This is true. But she was the player that made me believe, I could see a woman playing in the NBA.
Wow. Okay.
Watching her play in her prime on the practice court, in games, playing against men. I don't know who she'd guard. She would have guarded. But offensively, absolutely. She was every bit that kind of talent.
That's crazy for me to hear, and I don't want to turn this into too much of a discussion
Right.
because it's an older discussion that people were having instead of games that matter right now in order to talk about this stuff. But you, as a front office executive, saying that the offensive game impressed you that way sort of explains to me how it is that she won as much as she did, because you just mentioned Russian championships. You didn't mention the 6 gold medals. You didn't mention the 3 WNBA championships, and you started to mention the 3 college championships. But you're talking about, a lot of people might look at that and say that she was dominating a sport that was still in its formative years. She was that much better than everyone else, and therefore that's why she was doing that winning. No, she was beating the best of the best in order to make this league what it is, and she was showing you something that suggested to you that she could play amongst the men.
Well, the other thing also, and I know there are going to be a lot of people who's like, well, she's not better than Caitlin Clark or whatever, but the interesting thing I always think about, this is on both sides of the gender aisle, right? Men's basketball and women's basketball, is when we take the accomplishments of former or older players and say, oh, they're not as good as the players today. Why? Because they can't do this, that, and the other. And I always say, is it because they can't do it, they don't have the skills to do it, or because the game wasn't ready for someone to do that? A great example of this is Isaiah Thomas, the original Isaiah Thomas. Well, he wasn't that great a three-point shooter. I said, all right, you got to think about things from Isaiah Thomas's perspective. There was no three-point line in high school when he was playing. There was no three-point line in college when he was playing. So the first time he ever saw a three-point line was when he played in the NBA. Every coach at all levels of basketball taught, hey, if you get a closeout on three-point line, you pump fake and you take 2 dribbles in and go the high percentage shot. The high percentage shot, which is a mid-range jumper, right? So everything you are taught and everything you are told is this is how you play the game. And now you want to be judged by the standards of today. It's like, well, he can't do this thing that everyone discouraged and no one thought was a real thing. Taurasi obviously doesn't have that kind of background, but still the background of, hey, let's not rely too much on that three-pointer. Let's not go too crazy. Caitlin Clark has benefited because of players like Taurasi and Steph Curry and everyone else to grow up in an era where shooting those kind of shots and playing that kind of way is not only accepted, it's celebrated. And so I always wonder, when you think about a Taurasi, for as great a career as she had, 3-time WNBA champ, 5-time scoring champion, right? What would it have looked like if she had played it, like if her career started now? Would we be as flummoxed and thrown off as we are by Caitlin Clark?
Her career started 4 years before the iPhone. So
That's crazy.
yeah, she's just been doing it at the top of the sport for a really long time. And I don't know what's the craziest part of it, because I think we've somehow gotten numb to this because of science and how advanced athletes have gotten in taking care of their bodies. Doing this in your 40s is crazy. It's just crazy. I know that Tom Brady and LeBron are doing it in their 40s, but getting to a place where you're numb or you think that it's normal for her to be able to put up 21 points in the first game of the playoffs when she's 42 years old. And it's not just 42. It's 42 with all that mileage on the body of not just playing WNBA seasons, but playing WNBA seasons without charter flights and playing WNBA seasons year-round because you have to have off-season jobs because the WNBA salaries aren't good enough.
I don't know what the comp is in modern sports. Maybe there's somebody from like the 20s or whatever played in some league, but I don't know what the comp is in modern sports of someone playing 11 to 12 months a year and being the best player on their team. Like, she doesn't get to go be a role player somewhere else and hide in the corner. She was the best player on her team for damn near close to 2 decades.